Hello boys and gears, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be covering a video that's a bit older. It's from Computing Forever, and it's titled If You Tolerate This. So let's see what he's talking about that we should be worried about
The
tolerating.
title of this video relates to a song by the Manic Street Preachers. If you tolerate this, your children will be next. The left is constantly preaching to us about how we must be more tolerant of lifestyles, ideas, and cultures that are antithetical to the very principles and values that Western nations have stood for. The truth about demands for tolerance is that it's really about trying to disable our ability to say no to ideas and behaviors that we find repugnant. It's about breaking down our resistance and undermining our moral conviction by encouraging apathy and shaming us for trying to preserve, take pride in, or celebrate our own identity. In short, a society cannot survive if it's unable to defend and maintain the traditions, values, and social mores that define it. Those who do not consent to having their moral fiber eroded will of course be branded bigots, haters, and out-of-touch dinosaurs. Oh, and probably Nazis too, but of course that goes without saying these days.
So I don't know where Computing Forever is from, where he thinks Western society, like what their values are. But as far as I know, the 5 founding ideals of my country, which is the United States, are equality, rights, liberty, opportunity, and democracy. Those get defined as equality, all people are treated in the same way and valued the same. Rights, powers, or privileges granted to people by agreement or by law. Liberty is obviously freedom. Opportunity, the chance for people to pursue their hopes and dreams. And democracy, a system of government founded on the basis that the power to rule comes from the people. So, yeah. Let's see what else he has to say, but I'm pretty sure my founding country's ideals don't say anything about keeping yourself stuck in ancient rhetoric.
Earlier this year, I discussed the following article written by a pediatrician who said transgender ideology has infiltrated their field and produced large-scale child abuse. Transgender politics have taken Americans by surprise and caught some lawmakers off guard. Just a few short years ago, not many could have imagined a high-profile showdown over transgender men and women's access to single-sex bathrooms in North Carolina. But transgender ideology is not just infecting our laws, it is intruding into the lives of the most innocent among us, children, and with the apparent growing support of the professional medical community. As explained in my 2016 peer-reviewed article, Gender Dysphoria in Children and Suppression of Debate, professionals who dare to question the unscientific party line of supporting gender transition therapy will find themselves maligned and out of a job. The article is long, so you can check out the full thing, link below in the description, but this summary sufficiently gets to the heart of the piece. Today's institutions that promote transition affirmation are pushing children to impersonate the opposite sex, sending many of them down the path of puberty blockers, sterilization, the removal of healthy body parts, and untold psychological damage. These harms constitute nothing less than institutionalized child abuse. Sound ethics demand an immediate end to the use of pubertal suppression, cross-sex hormones, and sex reassignment surgeries in children and adolescents, as well as an end to promoting gender ideology via school curricula and legislative policies. It is time for our nation's leaders and the silent majority of health professionals to learn exactly what is happening to our children and unite to take action.
Alright, I've covered this particular article that he's talking about in a previous video, but I'll cover it a little bit again here. First off, his source for all this information is an article from the Daily Signal, which is a far right-leaning publication that is shown to have mixed factual reporting. Editorially, the Daily Signal consistently casts doubt on the role of humans in climate change with articles such as climate change alarmism, stuff like Osama bin Laden was right, uh, the Mueller investigation stirring up more trouble than it's finding, stuff like that. It's a very right-leaning publication. The person that wrote the article is one Michelle Cretella. We've talked about Michelle before. She's part of the American College of Pediatricians. If you guys don't remember who they are a horrible hate group disguised as a bunch of doctors. Literally. They're a socially conservative advocacy group of pediatricians and other healthcare professionals in the United States. It was founded in 2002, and they claim to have over 500 members, although most independent research shows that they have between 60 to 200 members. The group's primary focus, though, is advocating against the rights of gay or lesbian people to adopt children, and it also advocates for conversion therapy. For those of you who don't know what conversion therapy is where you take a gay person and you force them to be straight. Or attempt to force them to be straight. You make the gay go away. They're a horrible hate group, and anything they have to say about any sort of LGBT issues should be taken with a giant grain
And
of
so
salt.
it is with that out of the way that we can now discuss the following. I called a trans boy a girl by mistake, and it may cost me my job as a teacher. Maths tutor suspended after praising pupil using the wrong gender. Joshua Sutcliffe, 27, who teaches maths at a state secondary school in Oxfordshire, said, "Well done, girls," to the teenager and a friend when he spotted them working hard. He apologized when corrected by the pupil, but 6 weeks later, he was suspended from teaching after the pupil's mother lodged a complaint. Following an investigation, he has been summoned to a formal disciplinary hearing this week to face misconduct charges for misgendering. According to documents seen by the Mail on Sunday, he also faces claims that he is breaching equality policies by referring to the pupil by name rather than he or him. Ah yes, the great push for equality within the institutions, another euphemism for forced compliance with cultural Marxism. The £30,000 a year teacher, I don't know why his salary is mentioned, said he was distraught and had been reduced to tears as teaching was his life, and he branded the actions of the school as political correctness gone mad.
Alright, a lot to unpack there. First off, his source for this article is the Daily Mail. Again, another far right-leaning propaganda, conspiracy, and some fake news reporting type thing. It's got stories like woman 63 becomes pregnant in the mouth with baby squid after eating calamari. Google search spike suggests many people don't know why they voted for Brexit. Is using bug spray to get high an alarming new trend? Did a White House intern make the white power hand gesture? Did Melbourne Antifa claim responsibility for the Vegas massacre? Are vigilante protesters digging up Confederate graves after Charlottesville clashes? Racist picture of Democrat North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper emerges just days after he called on Ralph Northam to resign. Stuff like that. That's their stuff. Like, they are a horrible source to try and cite for anything. Granted, I have found this news article on the BBC, and one of the things they don't say in their lovely little article there is the fact that Joshua Sutcliffe is also a Christian pastor. And the girls that he teaches, well, the children that he teaches, are between 11 and 18. Um, he also openly admits to the fact that he has avoided using gender specific pronouns by referring to the pupil by name, which, if you're in a class full of kids and the teacher only refers to one person always by their name, does that not show to all the other children in the class that they are being singled out as different? I mean, that's something that anybody who's been through school knows. If somebody's being singled out as slightly different in any sort of way, all the other children are going to notice. Oh, I almost forgot. He doesn't know why they mention his salary, like, for real. That's like the simplest thing in the world. They mention his salary because it shows that he's not in the job for the money. He is in the job because he enjoys teaching. That's what they're trying to show by mentioning his salary. Because £30,000 a year is not a very high salary.
Here's another story. Transgender tots. Drag queens sent to nursery schools to teach kids as young as 2 about gender diversity. Nursery school toddlers are getting lessons from drag queens to teach them about gender fluidity, because teaching the fiction of gender fluidity as fact is so very vitally important at such a young age, isn't it?
Okay. Gender fluidity is a fact, and it's been a fact for a long-ass time, you dumbass. I'm sorry, but it pisses me off when you, try and say that gender fluidity is not a thing. Just look. Tomboys. How long have tomboys been a thing? Those are gender fluid female people. Seriously. And as far as your facts about, making sure children get in on the ground floor or whatever with your indoctrination and stuff, I have a lovely little thing down in the description from a place called Mission Bible Class that teaches you how to teach kids about God when they are infants and toddlers from the ages of 0 to 2, which is younger than what your little article is about. At least they waited until the kids were old enough to walk. Alright, let's get back to your
Children as young
video.
as 2 are taught specially adapted songs by performers including Donna Lamode. Men in women's clothes are teaching kids as young as 2, including one who dressed in Alice in Wonderland, at 7 government-funded nurseries to stop them from committing hate crimes in later life. What wonderfully strong male role models these boys will have. And thank God they've gotten this indoctrination so early. Otherwise, their potential future wrongthink may have gone uncorrected. Let's be honest, if you destroy gender dynamics in this way by creating such confusion at an early age, it's a powerful way for the state to, by extension, destroy the nuclear family, a central building block of society. Terms like mother and father are considered offensive because the role of parents has to be downgraded so that the role of the state becomes more important. As single-parent families are pushed as the norm, dependence on the welfare state increases, and thus when children become adults, they're sufficiently infantilized to continue to view the state as mother and father.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Oh, I'm sorry. Was me singing a song that you teach to children offensive to you because I don't believe in it? I mean, I just... the logic behind this guy, can't look in the mirror for 5 seconds, I swear. As far as the single parent situation, I looked it up because most of these articles you're bringing up are from the UK, so I specifically looked up facts about the UK. And there are around 1.8 million single parents that make up nearly a quarter of families with dependent children. Around 1% of single parents are teenagers. Around 90% of single parents are women. And the average age of a single parent is 38 years. So, as I scroll down a little bit here, it says, then and now, the proportion of families with children headed by single parents has remained at around 25% for over a decade. So your whole thing that you're saying, oh, this is going to cause the loss of the nuclear family or whatever, guess what? There's been no change in any of that. So you can just suck it up.
Youngsters learn specially adapted trans songs at the sessions and are told stories, one about a teddy bear which realizes it is a girl and not a boy. The drag queen story time classes are held by Bristol University Law graduate Thomas Canham, 26. He hopes they will soon be rolled out across all 37 centres run by the London Early Years Foundation. Watch out, parents, your kid's school could be next. I'm constantly telling parents to watch what their kids are being taught. Pay careful attention to the wording of subjects within the school curriculum. Ask your kids questions about what they're learning in these factories of ideological conformity. Asked if tots were too young to learn of gender fluidity, he said, "We're not aiming to pitch narratives, just introducing the concept of it existing. Gender fluidity doesn't exist. So why are they being taught it?" Foundation Chief Executive June O'Sullivan said, by providing spaces in which children can see people who defy rigid gender restrictions, it allows them to imagine the world in which people can present themselves as they wish. But gender dysphoria expert Professor Ashley Grossman said, only a tiny proportion of children develop dysphoria. This seems a little misguided. I'm sure it's with the best intentions, but it could have the reverse impact. I think given what we've learned about the effects of gender ideology in pediatrics, it's fair to say that misguided is an understatement.
I'm sorry. I gotta, compose myself here. Do you even have kids? Where's your basis of telling people how they can raise their kids if you don't have any? Just saying. And your claims that gender fluidity doesn't exist? Well, here's my claims. God doesn't exist. So why are they being taught that at such a young age? Don't have anything to say back to that, do you? Other than, oh yes, my God does exist. As far as your source there for a professional, Ashley Grossman, I've looked up their professional credits. They are what's called a neuroendocrinologist. I mean, they do have credits for psychology, but all of their published works have to do with neuroendocrinology, specifically focusing on brain tumors. So I would hardly quote them as a sufficient source for this information. Maybe check your sources better. Oh, sorry, you didn't check the sources. The Sun did, which we've already shown a little bit ago that the Sun is known for not being the most factual information out there. Let's get on with the rest of this video. I feel my brain cells dying having to deal with him.
And what's more, even the traditionally conservative institutions of the UK are beginning to succumb to politically correct notions of gender construction. Boys should be free to wear tutus and tiaras, says the Church of England. Guidance for schools urges teachers to let children play with the many cloaks of identity rather than conform to stereotypes. Boys should be free to choose to wear a tutu, tiara, or heels, and girls to wear tool belts and superhero capes, the Church of England has said in new guidance issued to its schools. The advice also calls on teachers to avoid using labels that might alienate children's behaviour just because it does not conform to gender stereotypes. Of course, this is all being called for under the grounds of being an anti-bullying campaign. And though resources and facilities, of course, should be made available to children when they're being bullied, it's not good to coddle children for too long either. They have to learn to stand up for themselves, which is why it becomes obvious that these initiatives are a Trojan horse. They're simply using anti-bullying as a cover to push their science-denying ideology.
All right. So you have a problem with letting kids play and imagine however they want? Like, are you serious right now? Like, if a boy wants to pretend he's a princess, let the boy fucking pretend he's a princess. If a girl wants to be a superhero, let her be a fucking superhero. If she wants to be a construction worker, let her be a construction worker. If the boy wants to pretend to be a mom, let him be a mom. What is wrong with you that you just don't you want to force all these things into a specific gender role? Like, God. And anti-bullying as soon as possible is the best thing. I'm sorry, you may not have been bullied as a child. It's probably why you can't handle much bullying now. But I was. And let me tell you, once you have been shown as a target for bullies, all the bullies know. So you just stay as a target for bullies forever. You can do any number of things to try and get yourself out of it, but it does not change at all. So let's oh wait, one more thing. And I'm sorry psychology and sociology are such a soft science for you.
As the article on pediatrics mentioned, even the American Psychological Association's Handbook of Sexuality and Psychology admits that prior to the widespread promotion of transition affirmation, 75 to 95% of prepubertal children who were distressed by their biological sex eventually outgrew that distress. The vast majority came to accept their biological sex by late adolescence after passing naturally through puberty. But with transition affirmation now increasing in Western society, the number of children claiming distress over their gender and their persistence over time has dramatically increased. For example, the Gender Identity Development Service in the United Kingdom alone has seen a 2,000% increase in referrals since 2009.
Alright, so I already debunked a little bit of where that article comes from. Let's do a little bit something else here. 2,000% increase. So, I've looked something up on News Scientist. You can check this out down in the description. I, as usual, will be linking it because I link my sources. Between mid-2018 and mid-2019, the clinic received around 2,500 referrals, according to data shared by Polly Carmichael, Director of Gender Identity Development Service in London. The rise in young people seeking help with gender identity issues in the UK may have peaked. The country's only gender identity clinic for people under 18. So they only have one gender identity clinic in the UK. So this claim that gender identity clinics are getting inundated is just messed up because they only have one. They saw a very small increase in the number of referrals in the past year compared with the year before. There was a steep rise in the 3 preceding years of between about 500 to 700 referrals a year. It also says in this article, though, that about 45% of all people referred to the clinic eventually undergo physical interventions such as hormone therapy. This falls to 25% of those who were under the age of 12 when referred. So, their big claim that all of these kids are getting sent to these gender identity clinics and that it's horrible and they're all getting hormone therapy and all that stuff, if we look at the actual facts from the only gender identity clinic in all of the UK, not even half of the people that get referred go and actually become to the point where they start getting hormones. And if they got referred when they were under the age of 12, only a quarter of them wind up actually getting to the point of hormones. And considering that's only 2,500 people total being referred, that means that about half would be 1,250. So less than 1,250 people, children-wise, are even getting hormones. And that's if we have all of those referrals be over the age of 12. If they're under the age of 12, then only 25% of them wind up getting hormones. So that's only 25%. Let's see, 250, 625. So somewhere between 625 and 1,250 people wind up going on hormones as children. That's like a very, very small number. Like, I'm sorry that you want to sensationalize your numbers by saying 2,000%. God. I guess, teaching acceptance and letting kids know, hey, it's okay if you have these feelings, just isn't good enough. So, let's hear his last little statement.
Now, I don't think it's much of a long shot for me to say that massive increase in referrals might have come from the fact that kids are being indoctrinated in the ways that we're seeing in schools. It's very simple. Children are impressionable. Their minds are like sponges. They take this stuff in as fact. Before too long, they begin to believe it without question. Watch what your kids are being taught and discuss your concerns with other parents. The lecture halls of third-level universities are rife with this stuff, and now this same ideology is taking root in secondary, primary, and even nursery schooling. Parents, you must be vigilant. This is not something you should ever tolerate.
Now, I don't think it's much of a long shot for me to say that the massive increase may have come from the fact that kids are being shown that they do not need to be afraid of expressing themselves in schools. It's very simple. When you show acceptance, children open up more. They have emotions and will hide them when taught that they are wrong. Watch how your kids act and look for warning signs that they may not want to talk to you about something. The lecture halls of universities and their clubs are full of equality, and now it's being shown through all levels of schooling. We must be vigilant and show children that differences will be tolerated. That's it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!